In 1946, at Orange County, California, the Mendez family fought Westminster and Santa Ana for segregating Mexican-American population and excluding them from attending public school, forcing them to go to instead two small shacks that served as a school, where the Mexican-American children would receive an inadequate education, with the Mendez family taking their lawsuit to the Ninth Circuit. At the federal court level, they stopped this violation of civil rights and ended school segregation in California. The triumph of the Mendez case laid the foundation for Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954, ultimately ending the tragedy of segregating in schools across the nation, giving all minorities an equitable education. During the fall of 1944, Gonzalo and Felicita Mendez had hopes of enrolling their children into Main Street School, the same school where Gonzalo had attended. They soon found out the school had new policies that would not allow Mexican Americans or Japanese Americans to be enrolled into their school. As a result, they were forced to put their children into a separate school for Mexican Americans, Hoover Elementary School. Sylvia Mendez was only 9 years old during the case of Mendez versus Westminster. At the time, she did not know the importance of the case and how it would affect everything. She believed that her parents were fighting for her to go to a beautiful school with an entertaining playground. Sylvia was not fond of the Mexican school which they were forced to attend. It lacked a playground and was located next to a cow pasture, with an electric fence separating the two properties.
I have to tell you, I remember going to court every day while they were fighting the case, never realizing what they were fighting. All this time I thought they just wanted me to go into a beautiful school with a playground, because the Mexican school was a horrible school with no playground, and it was right next to a cow pasture. I remember that there was a fence around the cows. It had a little bit of electricity on it, and that was the fence between the school children and the farm. And one day a girl was playing the ball, and she went to get the ball. And when she went to grab the ball, she got a hold of the wire, the fence. And the wire was not enough to kill the cows. It was just to shock them so they wouldn't get close. But when that student, my friend, got a hold of that wire, it would not let go of her. She just kept shaking. And I remember the teacher going all the way around to where the dairy was and telling that man, "You have to turn off that electricity. One of our students is caught there and she can't let go."
In these segregated Mexican-American schools, they were designed to create servants. They would ban speaking Spanish and train the boys in agricultural industry work and manual labor. Girls would be trained to do housekeeping, completely limiting their education and change for opportunity. Not only is this extremely unethical, it is also a type of slavery, designed to make sure that Mexican Americans would never move up in the world. Sylvia Mendez is now 82 years old and an American civil rights activist. She also has received the Presidential Medal of Freedom on February 15, 2011. In response to the school's outrageous policies, the Mendez family went to court and partnered with 4 other families who were in similar situations. The case was held in Los Angeles, California, and was heard by the Ninth Circuit of the Federal District Court for the Southern District of California. With their support, the Mendez hired an attorney, David Marcus, to represent them in 1946. Marcus proved to be a useful ally in their fight against prejudice and brought up an interesting point. He challenged their laws because it clashed directly with the 14th Amendment. In simple terms, it states, "Granted citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, including former slaves, and guaranteed all citizens equal protections of the laws." The LULAC helped to raise money for the appeal to end school segregation. LULAC, or League of United Latin American Citizens, is the oldest ongoing American organization for Latino civil rights and was founded on February 17, 1929. In 1947, the state judge, Paul McCormick, had decided there was no law in California regarding segregating minorities. Philippa Strum is an American author who specializes in human rights, women's rights, U.S. history, and political science. Ms. Strum has a knowledgeable background on the Mendez case.
But how do you go from segregation to discrimination? And what Marcus had to argue was because the kids are segregated, they're not getting as good an education. Now, the 14th Amendment to the Constitution says that states have to treat everybody equally. This is the equal protection of the laws. And if you can show that separate but equal in this case is not really equal, then you can show that the 14th Amendment is being violated. Then you can show that segregation is discrimination. And so what Marcus had to do was, first of all, show that the superintendents of various school districts in Orange County had colluded to put Mexican kids in separate schools, because this was conspiracy to violate the law effectively, and then show that the kids were indeed getting a lesser education, were being prevented from getting an equal education by the very fact of the segregation.
As a result, the Mendez family sued 4 school districts: Westminster, Garden Grove, Santa Ana, and El Modena. They had ended school segregation in Orange County as well as in the state of California. Some of the most important impact of this case is setting the stage for the case of Brown versus the Board of Education. The Mendez case brought together 5 different minority organizations, all fighting to end segregation. This was monumental in Brown versus the Board of Education because they were used to working together and were extremely prepared for what laid ahead. Brown versus the Board of Education was ever so similar to Mendez versus Westminster. The advantages of the case gave a huge morale boost, not only to the freedom fighters, but also for the citizens, giving hope to all ethnic groups for the end of segregation. The federal court case established state laws to end school segregation in California. Judge McCormick's decision inspired the Mexican-American community. If it was not for Mendez versus Westminster, California may have never eradicated racist policies in school districts. The triumph of the Mendez case did set the stage for Brown versus the Board of Education and the end of tragic practice of segregation.